Hi folks, when I had my initial video about grudge and bearing a grudge and what that means and what it feels like, I said that there'll be 5 steps that I would take you through. So this is the first step. The 5 steps, just to recap. So when you're struggling with that feeling, that sense, that reality of bearing a grudge towards someone or a group of people, whatever that might be, and it's causing you distress, then we can think about ways of looking at that and working through that. So the 5 steps that I put together were: the first one, to see a counsellor or a therapist or speak to a good friend, someone that you trust. Secondly, acknowledge those emotions, that those emotions are real. So you acknowledge those without judgment because they are what they are at that point in the process. And acknowledging how the grudge and everything around that is impacting on you. And then we think about reframing that. So it's about concentrating on how you can take back control and how you can make yourself or put yourself back in the driving seat, really, when it comes to those emotions. And then the next one, the fourth point, is releasing control and taking back that power again. And that's slightly different to the previous point, but they're tied up. The last thing that we'll look at is what we do when we get to the end of that process, or close to the end of that process, in terms of what have we learned from what we've gone through, and how would we apply that in day-to-day life going forward. And also, sometimes people talk about elements of forgiveness that are there as well, that are important to them. And again, that's a very personal thing, but that's something that we can look at as well, and have a look at how that works in the lives of people. Okay, so fairly straightforward. And actually, it's fairly straightforward. But when we're dealing with emotions, it becomes more complex, doesn't it? So just talking about it like I have been sounds really quite straightforward and easy, but it is more difficult than that, as you very well know. So the first part is, when you're struggling in any way, then seeing a counsellor or a therapist might be a positive route of action for you. Now, I think sometimes people think that counselling or therapy is for people who are broken, people who are, perhaps they have a diagnosed mental health condition. And sometimes people think, well, that's just not for me, I don't fit into that box. In actual fact, therapy, counselling, is much bigger than that. So yes, if you have those issues that you want to work on, then yes, they're worked upon, absolutely. But sometimes we have life issues that just bear down on us and make life very, very difficult. And that's why having someone who is independent, who's not involved in the situation, that's when that can be really, really useful. And also within therapy, when we're dealing with individual incidents, perhaps, or patterns, then therapy can help us to see that wider picture. So the therapist can help you bringing those things into your consciousness, if you like, and working through those things. And so I would say to people who are a bit reticent about coming to see a counsellor or a therapist, think about that and find someone that works for you as well, because that's a good thing about therapy, I suppose, is it should be reactive. So if you're with a therapist and that doesn't quite work, that doesn't mean that the therapy is wrong. It just means that you might have or not have the best fit there. So you can shop around if you like. And in terms of, so bearing a grudge is not a mental health condition. Bearing a grudge is something that's part of being human to a degree. So that's what it's all about, coming to see someone. I'll give you a quote actually from Viktor Frankl, who was the founder of one of the schools of psychotherapy that I practice, and the one that I have most affinity with. It's called logotherapy and existential analysis. So Frankl says that logotherapy sees the human patient in all of his humanness. Okay, now he says it's not a male construct. This is meant to be generic, so this is encompassing everyone. He uses his there. I step up to the core of the patient's being. He speaks about a patient because he was a medical doctor, and that is a being in search of meaning, a being that is transcending himself, a being capable of acting in love for others. So that says a huge amount about what I would do and my fellow logotherapists would do in practice. So we're looking at someone holistically. So you come into therapy not with little bits of you that you want to work on. You come into therapy the whole package, if you like, that wider picture, and the context of that is really, really key. And he says there, I step up to the core of the patient's being, and that's what logotherapy is. It's about seeing the person as they are, sometimes not as the way they might see themselves, but as they are. And that's a positive thing, because sometimes having someone looking at your situation from that point of not being right in the midst of it, they can see things sometimes that you can't, positive things, elements or attributes of your personality that are really quite striking that you might not have picked up on, or you've not been able to pick up on because of previous experiences. So it's about finding people where they are, but seeing where they can go as well. And that's a being in search of meaning, a being that is transcending himself, a being capable of acting in love for others. So we're always searching for meaning. Wherever we are, whatever we're doing, there's that search for meaning. It's absolutely crucial to what it is to be a human and living out a life as we do. A being that is transcending himself. So we talk about this in logotherapy a lot, about transcending your circumstances, learning from what's happened in life. So maybe that grudge that you have that's incredibly difficult to get rid of because you've been hurt so badly. The wound has been so deep. What we do in logotherapy is we acknowledge that, sit with that, and then see where that can take us in terms of reaching beyond that pain, that hurt. So in actual fact, we would say, it's helping the person to achieve something that is deeply human. So transcending yourself and being capable of acting in love for others. That's what self-transcendence is about. So following on from, the work, say, that we've done in terms of grudge, the situation that arose in, and we've started to work on that. What do we do with it? Do we say, okay, well, that's it dealt with? Or do we say, hang on a second, I've learned something really powerful from this. I can actually help other people in some way, shape, or form, whatever that might look like. And you might think it's not anything significant, but I think when we're always reaching out in love for others, then that's really where we want to be, and that's a powerful place to be. So that's the first part, which is probably one of the most important parts, actually, because it's foundational. So think about that. And also, I mentioned counsellors and therapists. If you've got a good friend, someone you can trust, maybe someone who's not intimately involved in the issue that you're struggling with, but if you've got someone that you can talk to and who'll listen to you and help you process some of these difficulties, then that's worth its weight in gold. So you don't need to see a therapist at that point. So think about those issues. And what I'll do in the next video is I'll come back and I'll recap, because there's quite a lot there, isn't there? There's quite a lot involved in that few minutes that I was talking about. So we'll go back to that, and then we'll think about moving into the next phase, which is acknowledging your emotions and the effects that they're having on you, and how to deal with that in a way that it's not completely overwhelming. So I hope you found that useful, and I shall be posting another video, I think probably in about another week's time, depending on how things go. So in the meantime, I wish you all the best and have a great rest of the week. Take care.